Hello there, welcome to this video on Unit 2, Nets of Solids. What we're going to be talking about is how do we identify different types of solid objects, and if I kind of crack them open and split them open, what does it look like if I laid it out flat, right? And that's what we call nets. So I'm going to go ahead and first start off by just kind of introducing you to the different types of solids. So here, and you might have this in your notes, you might not. If not, maybe you just want to kind of make a note of what we're talking about here. We're going to go through and identify the different types of solids. Now, there are some of these solids that you know right off the top of your head, such as this first one here. This is a sphere, right? Almost like a ball of some sort. And then we have here a cone. Everyone knows a cone. And down here you may recognize this as a cylinder. Okay, and then we have all these other objects kind of embedded. And I want to talk about some different types of objects. The first one I want to talk about are what are known as pyramids. And you may be able to recognize these. Here, this is a pyramid. This is a pyramid. This is a pyramid. And this is a pyramid. How do I know that all of those objects are pyramids? Well, you may be saying, hey, they have a pointy top. And yes, that's definitely what a pyramid is. It has what's known as a apex. Right here, apex. Okay, that's where it comes to a point. So, how do I kind of differentiate these pyramids? Well, I want you to just first maybe pause the video and ask yourself, okay, like what's the difference between all of these objects? Okay, and hopefully you did that, and I hope the conclusion you came to is their base. If you look at their base, and maybe you said like the number of sides that they have, but really their base is what differentiates them, and that's kind of how they get their first part of their name. This is a triangular pyramid because its base is a triangle. Over here we have a rectangular pyramid because its base is a rectangle. Okay, and what about this one down here? Well, 5 sides, so that is a pentagonal pyramid. Okay, how about this one? 6 sides. Well, that's a hexagonal pyramid. Okay, so those are those objects. And then I want to go ahead and talk about the last remaining groups. So the last group, I want you to know them as prisms. So these are prisms, and they're all a prism. And again, they are differentiated by their base, right? So here is a triangular prism. Here I have a square prism. This is also known as a cube. Maybe that one should have been included in like our first set. That's a cube. Okay, here we have a rectangular prism. Okay, pentagonal prism. And a hexagonal prism. Okay, so these are kind of our objects. Again, differentiate between pyramids and prisms, and then there's kind of like, those staple solids that we know: the sphere, the cone, the cylinder, the cube. We kind of all know those ones, okay? So our objective for this lesson is to be able to identify nets of a solid. And again, what a net is a diagram of the surfaces of a three-dimensional figure that can be folded to form the three-dimensional figure. Okay, and to identify a three-dimensional figure from a net, look at the number of faces and the shape of each face. So here's our first object, and just by looking at this object, and you should have this in your notes, you can tell that this is a prism. Okay, oh, and again, how is this a prism? Well, it has rectangular sides, okay, that are the same, and then the base is a rectangle, right? So this is a rectangular prism, okay? And if you go ahead and look over here at the net, you can see we have 3 pairs of congruent rectangles. Okay, so if it has a rectangular sides, it is a prism. All right, the next example that we have, looking at this object, again, the sides, right here on the side, this piece, and this piece are rectangles. So that makes it a prism, right? This isn't a pyramid because a pyramid comes to one specific point, the apex. Okay, so this is a prism. And then again, the base of it, which is kind of misleading because we think of base as like the bottom, but if you rotate an object, right, that can change. So here, the face of it, right, the base is a triangle. So that's a triangular prism. And if we went ahead and we kind of like unfolded it, right, here you can see, here's those sides, right, which makes it a prism. Okay, and you have a pair of congruent triangles, right, which act as your base. So here's a triangular prism. Okay, and why are nets useful? Like, why are we even looking at nets? Well, if I unfold this, one thing that we do in mathematics is we calculate area, right? And we calculate volume. So this whole unit kind of focuses on surface area. And what we're going to do is we're going to be calculating, okay, what's the area of these objects? Well, it can seem very, very complicated, but if I break open the objects or lay them out in their net form, you can easily calculate the area. Like, what is the area of this piece here? Well, that would be area is equal to length times width, right, for a rectangle. So 12 times 5 gives us 60 square centimeters. Okay, so that's kind of like what we're doing with these problems later on. Okay, second to last one here, I have a pyramid, and then what type of pyramid? Well, what is the base? It's a rectangle. So this is a rectangular prism, and if we went ahead and opened it up like this, okay, we would have our net. So here is our net. Okay, a rectangle and 2 pairs of congruent isosceles triangles. You can get very detailed if you want. Okay, last but not least, here is a cylinder, right? We all know this, kind of like canned food, if you will. So there's a cylinder, and it has 2 congruent circles, right, as its base, and then a rectangle. And another thing that we're going to be talking about later on is the side area. Like, what's the side area? And that is known as lateral area. We'll see problems potentially such as like if this was a can of soup, what is the area of the paper that goes around it? Okay, and that's the lateral area. All right. Okay, so that is it. That is the introduction to Unit 2. We're talking about solids. In this unit, we're going to be calculating area. And again, sometimes we can use nets. Definitely using nets as our kind of foundation in, you know, formulating our area formulas. Okay? All right, so that is it for this lesson. I'll catch you later.